A breath of change. In 2017, a single game changed everything. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild wasn't just another entry into a long running series, it was a statement, a rebirth, a statement that said, what if we trust the player? When Link opened his eyes on the Great Plateau, so did we. We woke up into a new way of playing, a new way of thinking about exploration, and a new definition on what is open world. Today, we will explore Breath of the Wild, redefine the freedom, reshape game design, and inspire generation of players and developers to look at the adventures differently. Before the Wild. Before Zelda broke the whole formula of open world games, big maps, icons everywhere, confusing quests, checklists, complete tasks after tasks, confusing NPCs. You didn't use to explore, you were just completing the map. You were just going one task, one map after the map, one objective after the other objective. So you're just following this linear exploration that sometimes didn't make any sense. And you're asking, why am I playing this game? Why things has to be like this? So then the whole open world genre just fall off into a series of copy and paste and lazy designs, and everything just started to become the same. You feel like you saw this in a previous game, you're playing the same game in a loop for ages. On this chapter, I just wanted to highlight the importance of having engaging maps and engaging quests. Because after a while, all the games start to become the same. We can give examples like this. For example, if you get Fortnite and you have Call of Duty and then you have PUBG, they are all battle royale. And after a while, they do different things. There are different behaviors, but they start to become a little bit of a repetitive pattern. And the same thing was happening before 2017. All the games were following the same idea of like you go to point A to point B, you do the quest A, quest B, quest C, and everything was just falling into the same category. A lazy game design that every time we were playing the same game, even though the title was different. And then Nintendo came along. Nintendo philosophy of curiosity. Nintendo didn't want to make a bigger world, they wanted to make a smart one. Breath of the Wild was built around a simple question. If the player think it should work, shouldn't it? That question creates the chemistry engine, the invisible system that make fire burn grass, wind carry sparks, and the metal conduct electricity. It's what lets you solve the problems on your own way. For example, if you have a question where you have to drop a rock in a certain way, there's no right or wrong answer. You can take the objective in any way, shape, or form you desire. There's a thing in the game that you can even go to the first boss if you want, right when you start the game. This shows that the freedom of the player has in this wonderful world created by Nintendo.
The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of the Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages.
Zelda has such a creativity that there's a famous quote on the game said by the director that said, "We didn't design puzzles, we designed possibilities." This shows the commitment of the team to give the players the freedom to explore on their own ways. And this is a very different approach even to modern games today in 2025, at the moment of recording of this documentary, that shows that a game doesn't need to have pretty graphics, a game doesn't have to have complex logics. A game needs to have a world that works together. Every system must be there for a reason. You shouldn't create things just for the fact that you want to add on the game, but everything should be added for a reason. Even if the reason is silly or a simple thing, but they should work together to build and craft a masterpiece that's Breath of the Wild. The world as a teacher. In most games, a tutorial tells you what to do. In Breath of the Wild, the world itself teaches you what to do. In the Great Plateau is a masterclass in design in every system you ever use later: climbing, cooking, crafting, physics, weather, and gently introduced through the exploration, not instructions. The game trusts you to learn, to fail, to explore, to experiment. That trust builds immersion. You don't feel like you are following a script. You feel like you are discovering rules into a living world. It creates immersion. It creates the ability for you to get engaged and follow the game and explore. What if I try to do this? What if I try to do that? And everyone that plays Zelda have a different experience because you're not binded to a single script. You can do whatever you want. You just have to follow simple rules, and the game will give you the immersion you need to create and craft your own story on your own way. Before we move to the next chapter, I just wanted to say that Zelda Breath of the Wild is the classic example that is not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's how you interact with everything. Every enemy has a reason. Everything you do in the game has a chain reaction that later on will be explained, or you find the reason why that works. And everything comes together into this living world of Zelda.
That look on your face tells me that you have no recollection of me, however.
I think you are now ready. Ready to hear what happened 100 years ago.
The silence of storytelling. Breath of the Wild tells the story not through the endless dialogue, but through silence. The world feels wounded. You can sense what happened even before Zelda's memories feels the details of the screen. Every broken guardian, every ruined wall, every quiet field filled with forgotten machines tells a story of this fallen kingdom. The music rarely interrupted you. It breathes in the wind. Each piano note whispers the past echoing through the ruins. And somehow, without saying much at all, Zelda World feels alive and sad. Is the place that remembers. I just wanted to highlight how important Zelda Breath of the Wild is for me as a developer. In a way, everything that I try to develop and every game I try to craft, I look at Zelda's simplicity and I'm like, yeah, everything makes sense. Everything is pieced together. Everything, there is a reason why it exists. And that's one of the reasons why I love playing Zelda over and over again, because from the moment you start to play, and more you spend, the more time you spend with the game, The more you fall in love with the whole scenario, the whole characters, and how everything works. And being a game developer, sometimes you think, how did they do that? How is this possible? And then you realize that freedom as design.
Everything I've done up until now, it was all for nothing.
Freedom as design. When player talks about freedom, they often mean many options. But Nintendo understood that true freedom comes from trust. You can climb anything, you can go anywhere, solve shrines in countless ways, ignore the main quest for 30 hours, and that's fine. The designers didn't force into a structure, they built a sandbox where every system interacts. The result? Players began to share their own stories. The one who used a lightning to destroy a camp, the one who surfed a shield down a volcano, and the one who cooked W's food and laughed at the result. Breath of the Wild become not just a game, but a generator of personal adventures. And this shows us that a game is not just about the gameplay or the story, right? It's the design, right? It's the whole concept of, does this feature work with that feature? Does this system works with that system, right? For example, if you get games like, let's say, League of Legends, and then you have Resident Evil, and then you have, let's say, Battlefield, right? And even Zelda, like, they're very different games, but why those games are successful? What does it make them unique? And the common pattern is the design of the game. Does all the features make sense? In League of Legends, for example, you have many characters. So the whole mechanic of the game is to combine your online team and make sure that everyone knows how to use their own skills. Like Battlefield is the whole destructible environment and how a modern war is fight. So in that way, that's a design. And Resident Evil, it had many adaptations, but let's say the classical one is the tank control, right? Your character is always, when you're trying to shoot, you're always stuck in place, you don't move. And like, why is the design like this and how it works, right? And then you have Zelda, which is just a game that truly it's magical. Everything on it is just flows. You can do the game whatever you want. And I think this brings a good game design, right, is hard to do. It's something that's not easy, and sometimes it will take you many trials and to perfect that. But it brings a story, right? It tells that a game is polished or not. So a good game design is the definition. It defines a good game from a bad game, and that's what Zelda is. It's a really well mechanical and technical game built by passionate developers to engage a community, and in a way brought so many stories, and so many people love the game, and it will live through the echo of time, right? It's just a game that will outlive generations, similar what Mario 64 did, right? The hidden genius constraints. But there's a paradox. Freedom only works because of his limits. It's what people say. What makes a good game is not the mechanics, but is the rules. The rules is what makes everything in life fun. Because if you can do anything, so what's the point of playing the game? For example, the stamina bar, the rain, the fragile weapons, those aren't punishments. They are what makes the world believable. When you use your sword and your sword breaks, you adapt. When the rain stops, you climb, you plan. When you run out of stamina, you feel mortal. You feel the game trying to defeat you. The struggle makes every success meaningful. That's the hidden genius of Breath of the Wild. It gives you the freedom, but it reminds you that the world doesn't resolve around you. And that's where the game shows his geniuses, right? That's where you have clearly a design team and people thinking about it. Because one of the complaints that Zelda Breath of the Wild had back in the day, it was the weapons, right? You have to change every weapon. Every weapon has a durability level that you always end up breaking the worst possible scenario. But that is, in a way, one of the best features of the game because you are always adapting. You're always getting items here. You're always defeating enemies. You always have to get resources to craft weapons. And you're always running out of arrows in the worst possible moment. So this is where the geniuses of the game comes through to alive, right? Because it forces the player to always try to adapt and conquer in a different way. Emotion resonance. Beyond the systems and mechanics lies emotion. Zelda's sadness, her failure, her fear, her desperate moments, and her desperate attempt to save Hyrule is quite powerful. The more you wonder, the more you feel the weight of the history. When you finally face Ganon, the Demon King, it's not just a boss fight, it's the disclosure for Link and Zelda and for you, the player. Because without the player, the whole story wouldn't be possible. Because you didn't reach to the end of the quest, you earn it step by step, mountain by mountain, monster by monster, sword by sword. You earn this moment. And this is what makes the game very powerful because when you get to the end of the boss, right, you are in such of a state of like, okay, come on, let's finish this. Let's do this. This is the moment to shine. And you kind of buy the story. And it makes you very excited. It makes you very engaged into the game. And you don't want to fail. Because if you fail, and you know you're not going to fail, but when you lose a boss fight, you're like, I have to save the castle. I have to save the princess. I have to save the kingdom. This is my duty. This is why I play this game for. The legacy of the Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild didn't just influence Zelda, it just influenced an entire generation of designers. Games like Elden Ring adopt the player-driven discover, Genshin Impact borrow its travels and exploration loops, even Tears of the Kingdom build on that foundation, showing that the creativity can reach to new heights, literally. In industry, often being with formulas, Breath of the Wild reminds us that sometimes the best design comes from trusting curiosity. Thank you very much for watching this series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see something similar in the future based on another game. If you have any game in mind, I'll be more than happy to create a similar video for that. But I just want to say that the idea of this video is to bring what makes this game, right, Zelda Breath of the Wild, in a perspective, like a great game in a perspective of a game designer, right? Like what influences us, what's the key points that we should take from this when applying this to our own games. I want to thank you very much for watching, and if you guys like the DevRealm content, please let me know. And we don't only make those videos, we make tutorials as well about games, specializing in Unreal Engine, but in the future, we want to see other engines as well. If you like the content, please check thedevrealm.com, and you're going to be able to find much more things if you enjoy us. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.